Sqaure root transformation in SPSS. If you have a data that are not normally distributed, i.e. negatively skewed data, and you want to do a transformation on this data using one of the three available methods, Sqaure root method, to transform the negatively skewed data, you need to do two steps. The first one is reflecting the data before transformation. The second one, transforming the data using the Sqaure root. In this SPSS data view, I have two columns for data. One is labeled PS and the other one is NS. And PS stand for positively skewed and NS stand for negatively skewed data. I had checked these NS data and found that they are negatively skewed, and I will show you shortly how to check the distribution of the data, whether it is normally distributed or not, and then how to do transformation on this negatively skewed data using the Sqaure root option, and how to do data reflection before doing the Sqaure root, as it is essential to do data reflection on a negatively skewed data, then proceed to the Sqaure root transformation. So first of all, to examine and check your data and the distribution of the data, we'll click on Analyze Descriptive Statistics, then Explore. And I'm going to move the NS data into the dependent list. I'm going to click on the plots and tick stem, tick the histogram, and tick normality plot with test. So I'm going to view the data using a histogram, and I'm going to view the data using a normality QQ plot, and do a normality test in a statistical test in SPSS. So if you click on continue, then click on OK, an output will be generated that had in it few tables and diagrams. Here in this descriptive table for data labeled NS, if we look at the skewness, you can find that it's negatively or negative 0.65, so that's indicate the data are negatively skewed, and the maximum value is 15.35 and the minimum is 1. So if we proceed to the next table, see here the test for normality using two common tests in SPSS, the Kolmogorov-Semenov and Shapiro-Wilk test, shows that the distribution of this data are not normal, as it's clearly here indicated. So the data here are negatively skewed. And if we look at the histogram here, you can see that the data are not uniform bell-shaped distribution. However, it is shifted, the data is shifted to the right, and the skewness toward the negative signs. So this data are negatively skewed as the tail is heading toward the negative values. And if you look at the QQ plot, you can see that all the data above the diagonal line, and also so this mainly data indicate, this mainly diagrams and tests indicate that there is negatively skewness in this data. So how are we going to do transformation of this data? As it is negatively skewed, we have to do two steps using the Sqaure root. The first step is data reflection. The second one is the Sqaure root transformation. So for data reflection, it is a important step, and it is a prerequisite for doing transformation, specifically for a negatively skewed data. So for a negative skewed data, you must do the data reflection. Otherwise you cannot proceed to do any other further transformation. And the way to do reflection is as following. If we click on transform and then click on compute, I have a window here, and I'm going to generate a column called data reflection. And to do the data reflection is as a following. First of all, we need to find out the highest value in the data, and the highest value in the data can be really determined using the descriptive table. It says the maximum is 15.35. So I'm going to type here 15.35. Then I'm going to add number 1 to it, and then I'm going to subtract from this maximum plus 1 each value of the data in the column labeled NS. So here we're going to subtract the maximum value plus 1 from each individual score in this data. And if I click the button OK, SPSS will generate a column called data reflection. And if I examine the distribution of this data, I'm going to click on Analyze, Descriptive, Explore, and I'm going to move the data reflection into the dependent list and then click on OK. So SPSS will generate few tables. One of them is descriptive. In the descriptive, we have here the unreflected data, the negatively skewed, and the reflected data. You can see here that the skewness in the unreflected is negative, and the skewness in the reflected one is positive. The maximum value is the same, the minimum value is the same, the kurtosis are the same. So here again, also the distribution of the data still not normally distributed for both the negatively skewed and data reflection. And if we look at the histogram for data reflection, we can see that now this is the data reflection. Reflected, the data become now more positively skewed as the tail is heading toward the positive value. So reflection has changed the data from negatively skewed to positively skewed. Again, as we can see from the QQ diagonal line, that the data are below that diagonal line. So this data has now been reflected and they are ready for the next step. So it's essential to do data reflection on negatively skewed data. So the next step is to try to transform this data from being not normal to normal. And I'm going to use the square root formula. And to do that is to click on transform, compute variable, reset this, and I'm going to generate a variable called square root data reflection. And to do that is to do square root of the reflected data. Click on the arithmetics in the function group. In the box below, square root will appear here. Drag this into the numeric expression box and insert between these the data reflected data. So what I'm going to do here to ask the software to do square root for every individual value in this data reflected column or variable. If you click on OK, the SPSS will generate another column doing a square root for this data that are reflected. So to check the distribution of this square root data, transformed data using square root to the original negatively skewed data, click on Analyze, then Descriptive Statistic, then Explore. And I'm going to move the data reflected that has been square rooted into the dependent list box, and click on, and then going to click on OK. SPSS now will generate a descriptive data that contain all the three data: negatively skewed original data, reflected data, and square root data reflection. Transformed data using the square root on the reflected data. Again, if we look here at the square root, we can see the skewness now is reduced from 0.6 to 0.1. That is really a huge reduction in the skewness. Thus indicate that this data now probably being transformed to become more normal. So if we look at this test of normality, you can see that the negatively skewed data are not normal, or not normally distributed. The reflection is not normally distributed. However, when you square root the reflected data, the data become normally distributed, as it is shown here by these two tests. If we look at the diagram for the square root data reflection, we can see that these data are fairly now normally distributed. So transformation has transformed the data from not normal distributed to normal distributed. Again, if you look at the QQ plot, you can see most of the data scores are aligned on the diagonal line, and the box plot indicate that there is normality of the data. So using the square root transformation of negatively skewed data has transformed the data from being not normal into normal. This is one of the ways to do square root transformation. First step is to do data reflection, then the second step to do the square root transformation. However, you can there is another method to combine both in one calculation, and to do that is to click on Transform, Compute Variable, and then Reset, and I'm going to call this Square Root 2. Square Root 2 Direct. The way to do that is, first of all, to click on Function, Arithmetic, Square Root, drag the square root into this empty numeric expression, and then if I want to do square root on the negatively skewed data, again I have to do reflection. So I'm going to do skew and reflection in one formula. So to do square root and reflection, to do the reflection, we've already determined that the highest, as we can see here, the highest value for the maximum value is 15.35. So we're going to type here 15.35, and then we're going to add 1 to it, and then we're going to subtract that from the raw negatively skewed data, the original data. So in this equation, what I'm going to ask the software to do a square root for a data that, and to do a square root following doing a data reflection. And the way to do that data reflection is to take the maximum value, add to it 1, and then minus it from each score in the data. So this is the way to do direct square root transformation and negatively skewed data. If you click on OK, SPSS will generate again a column called Sqaure Root Direct, and you can see here compared to the Sqaure Root data reflection, it is the same. If I want to double check it, I'm going to do Explore, and then I will add the direct here, Sqaure Root Direct, and move it to here, and then click on OK. And if I look at now I have a table, should have all the 4 different data, not skewed data, minus data reflection, Sqaure Root, and then Sqaure Root Direct. Again, if you look at the significance of this test, we can see that the Sqaure Root Direct reflection or Sqaure Root 2-step reflection and then Sqaure Root are really has been transformed into become normally distributed. So there are 2 different ways to do Sqaure Root transformation skewed data. The first one is to do a reflection, then followed up by Sqaure Root, or the other one is a direct one in which you do reflection and Sqaure Root simultaneously. This is the way to do data transformation in negatively skewed data.